You're taking that fire from those individuals because that's what it represents. But you also have to replace that with something. Whatever you harvest, a little piece of your fire is going to leave with that. This is why it's very, very important when we're doing these harvesting, I guess the harvesting teaching itself, that we incorporate that and share that, because there's a lot of people that over harvest every single year. A piece of us is going with those as we harvest. We have to remember that. Sometimes gradually in time, it'll affect us in the long run. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but maybe next year. I know that for a fact because I was guilty of that as well. But I was taught a valuable lesson from that clan. And it wasn't a deer, a buffalo, a moose, an elk, a caribou that taught me that. It was a pig. And he sits under there as well as a helper. How I learned the hard way was that he kicked me so hard. He kicked me with his back hoof so hard. He left an indent on my leg for about a month. And I never forgot about that. So just remember those kinds of things when you're harvesting out there. Even the smallest plant. We have to make sure that we acknowledge that and we put our SAML down. That's the importance of it. I'll work with these guys right now first because I know we're running out of time. Wabajeshi, I know there's a few in here. Nanibwin. Nanibwin, Wabajeshi. The Martin clan, where are you guys? Nanibwin. 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 Stand up. Bonjour, honey. This clan here, I guess we can call that the chieftain clan right now, because these are the symbols that we're going to use here. The Martin clan were warriors. No, what a bit. But what we tend to forget is that we think that's all they were. Kagego. Nope. They were more than that. The Wabajeshi were always the ones that we would go to when individuals didn't have a clan. They would go and sit with one of those clan members and ask. If they didn't have a clan, the Martin clan would adopt them until they found out, until they were given the right path to go. Underneath the Martin clan was also the Otter clan. Nagig. The Otter clan, some otters would be big, some otters would be long. The Otter clans would also accompany the Wabajeshi, the Martins. They would share those teachings, they would share those knowledge, but they would also have close relations to the Nijok societies. The Jaganash world out there gave those individuals government names just like us. We're indigenous this year. Justin Trudeau, if you're online, I want to know what we're going to be next year so I can prepare. If you're out there, Justin Trudeau, I want you to listen to that. I'm not indigenous. That society has always been with us, and that was the misconception. They were always here, and they were always a part of us. Nijok Nishnabe. The Jaganash world gave them the two spirit. I understand that. I respect that. I won't call them that because I was always taught something else. When we look at these individuals, I always respect them because they have a lot of knowledge. They have a lot of teachings. I sat down with a few individuals out west actually sharing a lot of these teachings because we can't forget about them. They're here with us. They were always here with us. It was the Jaganash world that diluted that. The Martin and the Otter clans would take those individuals in because they were warriors, each and every one of them. They had the best of our worlds and the worst of our worlds. And we have to remember that. But also underneath the Martin clan would be my favorite harvesting, I'm sorry, but the Beaver clan. Our builders, our constructors, our structural engineers. These guys were the ones that would get the job done. And they're very adamant about it. Is there any Beaver clan members here? Anybody? I know there was one here yesterday. And if you look at these individuals, a lot of our clans have very, very similar traits to the animals that we are. We can relate to them because we carry the characteristics of all of them, each and every one of us. I can say I do because I see that amongst myself when I'm in the bush. And I can say that about my partner because she's the same thing when she's in the water. She sits under the Otter clan. She likes the water. She keeps that little guy very, very close. If you know an otter, that's exactly what they do. The Beaver clan were the ones that would help our Chichok and our Hmong create. Our engineers, they would construct so many different things. And if you look at that beaver itself, they would be making their dams, making their lodges. These were also ones that would create our lodges because they had the tools to do it. Not saying that the Martin clan or the Otter clan didn't have tools, because they did. So these are the sub-clans that I'm talking about. Each one of these clans had a very, very important part for our communities itself inside of it. But we tend to forget these things. This is why it's so important to remember your clan and be proud of your clan, because your clan has a very significant part in your community building itself. Each one of our clans. Again, I'm going to be biased. The Wolf clan, shares a lot of family values. And that's something that we tend to forget. If you notice, who's ever observed a pack of wolves before? With their cubs, with their pups. They're playful, you know, with their kids. So each one of these traits, you know, I know that you may think that You don't carry those traits. But I like to pick on the Bear Clan, so I'm going to pick on the Bear Clan. Where's the Bear Clan members? I know there are some here. Oh, we got lots here. Oh, you're going to be mad at me. So the Bear Clan members like to eat. They like to eat fish. They like to eat berries. But they also like to nap. That's why they're sitting back and relaxing right now. The hottest part of the day, they like to sit back and relax at this point of the day. Every single one of them. It don't matter who they are. I was teasing my friend Elwood. If you guys know Elwood, I like teasing him. He's one of my rain dance brothers, and he always moves so slow like this thing. But I like to tease him because we tease each other a lot. And he's a part of that clan. You know, he shared a lot of different things with me as well. Because my mother's a Bear Clan. She taught me quite a bit as well about the Bear Clan itself. Were also the community protectors of the children, of the plants, of the medicines, of any items if they were there. The Bear Clan members would always like to unite with each other and share their stories, share their berries, share the fish when they get it, because their main harvesting time was actually February. Over the past couple of years, I've been really watching to see if any of these clans would be willing to share a lot of their feasting items, and the Bear Clan stepped up first. And if you guys been to any one of these bear feasts, they're amazing. Absolutely amazing what they do in that feast. If you have a chance to go, don't pass up that opportunity, because those Bear Clan members are there to show you and teach you about their clan. And that's a part of what we do as Anishinaabe people. We share this knowledge. Each one of these clans, like I said, are very significant in our nation building and our clans that we have that sit underneath the bear, like the wolf. That's why I like to pick on the bear. Natural enemies, right? Just like a heated argument when you're having, let's say, a chief and council meeting, right? I'm not going to lie, a chief and council meeting, this is sometimes one of the main things that happens is that you're in a fight with, let's say, I'm the chief of my community, and I get into a fight with a Bear Clan member. That's because the Bear Clan members were the natural enemies of the wolves as well. And we have to forget that. We can't forget that. These natural things are just there. They just happen. It's the same thing when it comes to another Wolf Clan member. It's just like brothers. Brothers and sisters fight. And we have to remember that. When we're looking at all these different things, we have to remember that we can't stay in that space, though. We have to look at the positive of our arguments, of our fights, because that's how we grow. We share our ideas. Also underneath the bear was the fox. Also the coyote. When I was growing up, my dad told me about these clans. And he would tell me about the original clans. There was only 5 at one time. There was only the Big Paw, the Little Paw, the fish, the birds, and then there was one more very special one. Those guys. All the Hoof clan. Because their symbol was very, very similar. And if you look at each one of those Hoof clan members, they're very, very similar. Every one of them. If you go out west, there will be underneath that Hoof clan, there will be a dull sheep. There will be a cow down south. And like I said, this is where these things will change from area to area. Out west, you'll also run into the buffalo. Shkurebjik. Powerful, powerful being. Very powerful clan that one is. Because that's the only clan that will face directly at a storm, while the other clans will hide in the bush. That Buffalo clan will stand and face that storm head on. That's how powerful they really are. Because they're not afraid. And then we move over to our bird clans. In different regions, that would be the Thunderbird clan. These are the educators. These are the ones that would love to use their voice. This is why my brother here, Bob, is there. That knowledge has been passed, and he's accepted it. But if you notice, I bet you he likes smelts. Small fish, pickerel. These are the characteristics that I say that are shared amongst individuals. The majority of the Eagle clan will have feasts in the spring. There's a story that I'm going to share about that clan because I was given the right to share this from one of the clan members out west. His name was Glenn Buck. I'm pretty sure Bob knows this one too. We were talking about it outside there earlier. A long time ago, there was these two birds. One was the gazette, that eagle, and the other was a vulture. And they would continuously fight like that, like I said. That fight that they would do. They were always arguing who can fly the highest. So underneath that clan as well, the crow, the raven, the blue jay, the robin. One day they had a big meeting, that bird clan, and then the eagle and the vulture got into it. They started arguing amongst each other, and then they started challenging one another. And then that blue jay, you guys ever hear a blue jay laugh? You know, when he kind of, when you're walking around in the bush, you can hear him kind of pointing you out to make sure everybody runs away. But that's what that blue jay was doing. He was laughing at them. The eagle says, "Oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to challenge. I don't want to fight with you." But that vulture was so persistent. And then the eagle just said, "Okay, let's do it then. Humba." And then that blue jay started laughing again at them, eh? And then, Humba, let's go. And then they fly, and they're going to see who can fly up the highest. So they went, they kept going faster and faster. The eagle was way up here, and then the vulture would catch up to him, pass him, and then again, back and forth. When they got up to that atmosphere where it started to get cold, they both turned white. Their heads, their tails, right here. That bald eagle kept going. The vulture kept going. Then the bald eagle stopped. And he just hovered there. The vulture kept going. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. The eagle kept hovering right at that one spot, and watching that buzzard get smaller and smaller as he started going further and further towards that sun. The closer he got to the sun, he was looking back. Where are you? Where are you? Abishai. And then he started to get hot. His head was starting to get hot. And then all of a sudden he stopped because his head was so hot. He was sweating. Birds don't sweat, but he was. And his talons started to get a little bit smaller. So he turned around and he went back. And the eagle was still hovering. And that vulture came back. And the eagle looked at him. Oh, Shundian. And he was sad. That eagle was sad because of their egos got the best of them. Both of them. So they came down. This is why that buzzard has that red head, because he went too damn close to that sun. But they both knew the consequences. They did. That was a story that was given to me. They said to use it in the clan teachings that you share. And I do, And that teaches a lot. Just that little story about, our own egos sometimes get the best of us. Because a lot of the time we tend to forget we have to be able to laugh. Right? Because underneath that, Migazeh, I think that one says Deboewen. He speaks the truth. And his own truth, he should have listened. But they didn't. This is what happens when our ego gets the best of us sometimes. Same thing like that buzzard. Then we move over to our Chachok. Any Chachok in here? Bah. Bonjour. Ogamak. One of the chieftain clans of external governance. Nation to nation building is a part of what that is. A lot of these are part of what they call the hereditary chiefs. You don't get a choice sometimes. You have to be that leadership. When we look at leadership, like I said before, you think just because you're in the lead, you're leading. The most important role in that leadership is listening. And I think our Ogama from here said that earlier. He likes to listen. And the majority of our chiefs do. They listen. This is a part of what that Chachok does. They have that ability to listen on that shoreline. This is why it's important that they have that Hmong close by so they can speak amongst each other, because that's the internal governance, internal chiefs. Chajajgoda, a long time ago, like I said, we always had two chiefs. The one chief would be that political chief. The other chief would be what the war chief, and those are the ones that would go to battle, while the other chief would stay close to the camp and protect the camp with the help of these Wabajeshi and the clans underneath. That's why it's so important to remember that even though you don't see your clan, it's very important that you understand that your clan is here no matter what, and how important your clan really is to the community and to the nation itself of Anishinaabe people. Because without one of you, we would be lost, because there would be an absence of something. And then we move on to Pshika. There's a lot of controversy over this one, especially in our territories, because our lodges are so close. I want to acknowledge the lodges that sit in here today. Whatever lodge you're from, I want to acknowledge you. Because whatever lodge you're from, that will become either a fish, a sturgeon, no matter what that one will become. Underneath these ones will be, like I said, that sturgeon, pike, muskie, pickerel. These were, like I said, the ones that would be the mediators, the philosophers, the ones that the chiefs would go to when they needed that guidance and assistance to handle any sort of dilemma that they might encounter. So when we begin to really understand how the clan system works and governance, we can bring these things together and share them amongst each other. It's important to remember these clans, because this is who you are. This is a part of that self-identity. And if you look at what it says, is Nabakawin. Underneath that is also knowledge. So that way we can understand how this actually works when we're sharing these things. I have no idea. I don't want to interrupt your break. Bah. So I guess, is there any questions so far? Yeah. Okay, that's a good question. Okay, I don't want to fill up your cups any more than what they are. Okay? Everybody in this room, your cup is full. But I'm going to put a little bit more water into your cup just to give you an idea and an example of how this works. Who works in child welfare here? Anybody work in child welfare? Good. These individuals work with the Western or Eastern doorways. Child welfare consists of the first three grandfathers. Our grandfather teachings were given to us in sequence, believe it or not. In sequence, in a way that can be I don't even know what the word would be. Just to teach you, I guess, what those really are is to understand them first. The values of our teachings are so powerful in a way. I'm going to show you and explain to you something that maybe you've never heard before, but you'll know it's still there. These individuals that work with child welfare work with the Eastern doorway because they also work with love, truth, and honesty. The fundamental values of creating structure in anything in this world. An absence of one of these teachings is the absence of all. The Zsagoraj world taught us that. The Zsagoraj world taught us a part of this residential school system was to kill the Indian in the child. Right? What is the best way to do that? The very, very first grandfather teaching that we have. Right? It's all good doing. That absence of love wasn't there. When you encounter that with an individual, the absence of love is a reverse side of this feather. Everybody wants to know this feather right here, this side, because it's nice, it's smooth, right? But we tend to forget the other teachings of that feather, where it's rough, where it's coarse. These are the teachings I'm talking about. There's two sides to a story. There's two sides to a teaching. Bzalga Duen is only a little bit of it. When we're talking about Zalga Duen, we have to also remember what is the opposite of that word. Anybody know? Ka. It is not hate, but it's there. What is the opposite of love? That's a tough one, eh? That word, this word is ever shared amongst a young person, a young individual like my son here, if they have ever felt like that, it'll destroy them. And this is exactly what that government did to us. This word is so powerful, it can destroy anybody, no matter what age you really are. To feel love, that's the difference. The Eastern door deals with that first grandfather teaching because that's when the child is born. To feel that love. Zalga Duen. When you're looking at these teachings from a different perspective, they're going to teach you a lot more. The opposite of that word, to feel love, but also you have to reverse that. What is it like to be unloved? That's the difference. That's the opposite. This is how powerful those words can be. Because that zoged, when you can't speak it. You have to feel it. Just like when you were born. When you were born, did you have ears? Yeah, physically. Now, in your first trimester of that